Welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello and welcome to the Answer is Yes podcast. Thanks for tuning in. This is our 200th episode, and that's 200 of the Answer is Yes podcast. I've produced over 330 shows to date. There's some Baja shows in there, Liberty or Lose shows, and everything in between, Live Life Driven shows. But I wanted to do something special for number 200, and that's special, I guess, for me, not necessarily the listeners, but this is a showcase on a personal apparel brand, and it happens to be the brand that my wife, Samantha Riley, started. So today I'm interviewing my wife, Samantha Riley.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
So you just talked about drinking Jack Daniel's slushies in Nashville, and now we got to transition into business on the show.
Typical conversations in our house.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the business. I've been vocal about this on social media that I'm really proud of you and your ability to start a business. And I was there when you came up with this random idea on Christmas Day night, right?
Yeah.
After how many Jack Daniels that night?
Maybe not Jack Daniels, but maybe some wine or champagne, I'm sure of.
So did you ever think of yourself as an entrepreneur or somebody that would own your own business?
Never. I figured I'd work for others my whole life. I didn't have a ton of entrepreneurs in my life to take experience from, or at least that I didn't really pay attention to. So I never really thought that I would take the lead on something, and so it was very nerve-wracking and a little scary. And but I have the best coach, so I took a leap of faith and had an idea, and also, listened to Sean Whalen a bit. And, he says, if you see somebody doing something and they're doing it successful, copy them. Like, just do it, just start it, and, quit waiting around, because you'll never do it if you don't just start. If you're waiting for the perfect moment or to have it all together, you'll never get it right. So I decided to just start.
Well, that's my advice to everybody. Start doing it and work your way into it. So, so many people are stuck in the rut of, I'm just going to work for somebody else. And that's their life, right? And in your case, you decided that you're going to start a business. Can you tell our listeners what it feels like to own your own business as opposed to working for somebody else? And you can put aside, the monetary point of it. Are you making enough money to live off of? Probably not. But put that in aside. What is it like working for yourself versus somebody else?
So it's empowering. I just have had a lot of nervousness and I guess lack of confidence at the beginning of it. But once I just started going for it and seeing people supporting just my idea in general, before I had even started, having a product on hand or a way to even sell my stuff, just talking to people about my idea was supported, and it was a confidence boost. Like, what, people think I can do this? Why don't I think I can do this? And then I switched gears and was like, I know I can do this. So owning your own business is, there's a lot of ups and downs to it, and especially having something like Liberty or Lose apparel, which is, an apparel with a voice, where sometimes we get negative rises out of people, or I get negative rises out of people for sharing my voice and for, being unapologetic. So the confidence that comes from that is probably one of the biggest things, and the support from not even people that are close to me, because actually that's been the least amount of supportive people. It's been strangers that think your stuff's awesome and want to buy it and want to spend their hard-earned money to buy your things and are proud to wear it and are excited to tell their friends about it. It's also just incredible not to be on somebody else's agenda. If I was trying to have my voice and say what I want to say, like I'm doing right now, and working for somebody else, I would be ousted pretty quick. So
I had a super proud moment for you when we were in the 4th of July parade this year, going down the parade route and you come running over to me. What was it? Tell everybody.
So we were going, I got, I would say, voluntold to put on the Republican float for the 4th of July parade in our town in Montana. So I was pretty excited, and I'm getting everybody rallied and wound up and ready to go. And then we turn the corner to go down the main road, and I look over, and there's a woman wearing one of my Lioness AF shirts, and I'm like, what? And I come run over to Jim, and I'm like, oh, Jim, that lady's wearing my shirt. And it was one of my first shirts, and I kind of went off of, the AF trend and stuff, and wasn't totally politically correct or appropriate for some. But anyways, I look over, and this lady's rocking her shirt, and she's so proud of it. And I run over to her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, your shirt's awesome. She's like, I know, right? And I'm like, I made it. And she goes, no way. And she was all excited. She's like, this is one of my favorite shirts. I need more. I'm like, awesome. So anyways, it was a pretty proud moment to see somebody wearing your stuff and be proud to wear it. So
in a crowd of thousands, and you didn't know her, right?
No.
Yeah.
She had bought it at a local store. She had been in, we have a little feed store here that has been one of my first supporters, Lazy R&R Ranch Supply, and they took a leap of faith as well and, didn't know how it was going to go over there and decided to bring my stuff in, and she was there buying some feed and saw this shirt that struck her fancy, and there she was. It was awesome.
I love that. So I want to go back to what you were talking about, support from family versus support from strangers and others, because I think when we start a business, we immediately think, oh, my family's going to support me, and, they're going to buy my product, and, anything I need, they're going to be there for me, or my friends, and you don't even think about strangers being that component. But the reality is strangers have been supportive, and family, for whatever reason, aren't necessarily the ones that built your foundational elements, right?
Yeah, if you're depending on your family to be your main supporters or your main fundraising element, you're going to crash and burn real fast, and you're going to be brutally disappointed. Unfortunately, some of your stuff won't resonate with your family, or they want to see you excel on your own. And it's almost, when I started this, I knew my family and some of my friends weren't going to support it. A little bit about Liberty or Lose that I haven't explained is Liberty or Lose, like I said, is a apparel with a voice. But if we don't start fighting for our liberties, we are going to lose our country. And we see us heading in that direction right now. So anyways, I wanted to have a voice. I had never had a voice. And maybe I've had a voice. Everybody knows I talk a lot and I don't know a stranger, but having a voice in politics or things that I was passionate about or that affect my children or the direction of our country is something I've never been super vocal outright with. So going into my family supporting this, I grew up in a leftist, very democratic home, and I think I do know I was the first Republican out of my siblings and the first vocal Christian in my my home. So anyways, it was very empowering to me to know that I didn't need their support to try to be successful. But yes, of course, would it have been nice? Yeah. But anyways, so having strangers support and these people rallying around you that don't even know you was probably the coolest part of it all.
Yeah. So I appreciate you giving me credit for being a good coach in the house, but the reality is, and maybe you can explain to this, the process that you went through to other aspiring entrepreneurs. You did a lot of research on your own, like how to get your business license, how to set things up, your banking, all those things. I mean, I watched you for hours on end on your computer. I'm like, what are you doing? You're always, I'm researching. I'm trying to figure this out. I'm trying to do this. You figured out Shopify. You figured out Printify. You figured out vendors, banking, legal aspects. And now, and you can touch on this, now you have a service where you can help people set up their own Shopify, Printify. So now your apparel business is kind of transitioning a little bit into a consulting business too. Like, how'd you figure out all that stuff, or where'd you know to start?
So Google and the internet is your main tool to be successful. Any questions you have, it's at your fingertips. So everybody to sit there and make excuses of where to start. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have, your husband, I don't live with your husband who's a coach and an entrepreneur. I actually asked for very little help from Jim at the get-go because this was something I was just going to rally and get behind and do on my own. So Anyways, I used the tools that were available to me, and that is the internet. And I researched how to do everything, quite frankly. But I knew exactly where I needed to start, and that was brainstorming. If you don't jot down your ideas when they come to you or put them on paper, they're going to go by the wayside. You're going to forget about it. And that's one of the biggest things that Jim had explained to me, make sure you make a business plan, because during the course of your career or your business or whatever, you will find yourself veering away from where you started. It's just natural. It happens. So a business plan, it's not, the prettiest part of starting your business, but there's so many tools and so many free templates and everything else. And so I knew that was a huge part where I needed to start, was laying out what my plan was going to be. And when I veer away from it, I always go back to that, and always brings me back to my roots of my business, in a sense. So business plan, the internet are great places to start. Then from there, I just dove right in. I'm like, okay, I've looked into some other people's businesses. Even these biggest of businesses like Lions Not Sheep, they use Shopify. Numerous companies use Shopify. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to figure this out. I have a low budget, and dove right into Shopify. I figured out how to do my own website, figured out how to use Printify so I can do drop shipping and one-off products so that I don't have to invest in the product at the get-go and put a ton of money out for inventory. And then through all of this and lots of hours on my computer and brushing off my kids and not listening to Jim when he's talking to me, I figured it out. And I just asked questions when I needed to, but I figured it out on my own, and that was one of the most rewarding parts of it all. And through that, because I spent so much time learning how to do my website and all that, I've been now able to help other people build their Shopify, their Printify. I even, in the meantime, I learned how to do all my own like logos and graphic art designs. And does some of it look terrible? Heck yeah. But you had to start somewhere, and now I've been able to help others. I just recently have been asked by the Republican Party here locally to help them with some of their designs for things. So anyways, it has opened up a whole bunch of new doors for me, but you just have to be resourceful, and you just have to get started.
I'm super proud. You've got a billboard that you designed that's going up soon. I'm like, wow, you went from not knowing anything about graphic art to you just designed a billboard that's going to be up on the main highway here in town. So when you think about your research and development and teaching yourself how to do Printify and Shopify, programming really is what you've learned how to do on your own. When you look back at it, are you going, wow, that was really, really hard and it's easy now? Or is that was really, really hard and it's still really hard, but I get it? Or how do you look back on that now?
So I looked at it, I kept telling you I was trying to teach myself a foreign language, learning these technical aspects of building a website and all these things I had never had to do before. As a career, it was a really great career. It made me some decent money, but I was a waitress.
Mm-hmm.
This was nothing that was on my, radar of what I was going to do, and I had no training in any of it. So yeah, it was like learning a foreign language. You had to be patient. There was days that I was cussing out my computer and just losing my mind, and then from there I lost my mind on everybody else in the house because I was frustrated and had to just step back. And oh man, I can't tell you how many times I spent a whole day on one tiny little aspect of my website and literally would lose my shit and have to start back from ground zero and would delete the whole website and start over. It was absolutely awful. So you know what, it's not pretty, and it might not be pretty for most of you, but if you're not willing to get after it and keep pushing for it, you're not going to be successful in anything, just in general. Going back to, I keep mentioning Sean Whalen, but Sean Whalen has the Lion's Den, and I was part of that as a coaching platform to try to help me grow my business. And on this Lion's Den, Sean gives you all of his secrets, we call them, to everything he's done to be successful. And people are like, oh my gosh, why is this guy giving away all his secrets? Or why would he do this? And he always says, nobody's going to work harder than I am. You will not be more successful than I am. And for example, his apparel business, because nobody will work harder than him. And that just resonated with me. And, is my apparel business as successful as I want it to be? No, but I'm not working as hard as Sean Whalen right now either. And so, when you're not finding your success, it always goes back to you, always goes back to where you're lacking, and you need to identify those and get after it. Hold yourself accountable. We have lost accountability in our country. It's probably one of the biggest failures, in my opinion, of why we are where we're at in our country. But accountability and responsibility. Nobody wants to, take responsibility for anything. It's always somebody else's fault, or I'm poor because, that person doesn't want to hire me. Well, you know what? Make yourself irreplaceable. Make yourself the best person you can be, and get after it and quit making excuses.
So talking about accountability, you talked about your business plan a little while ago. We had of all the times that I could have given you advice, I never did, because you figured it out on your own. But we did have a conversation. You were frustrated in your business, and this was early on. You were thinking that it's not really working. And what we analyzed was who your audience that you were talking to. Your company was started for females with a voice, and we realized that the bulk of your materials, or your shirts, were all towards men.
Correct.
And so you went back and reanalyzed your business and took a different direction. What was that direction? What are some of the big steps you took? I know you made a big investment in that as well.
Yeah. So, I was just not into what I was putting out. Yeah, did I think the things were cool? I did. But every time I looked at my stuff, I'm like, gosh, this is not me. Like, I'm putting stuff out for what I think people are going to like, but that wasn't working. I wasn't selling anything like I thought I was going to be selling. And that was because I didn't have my heart into the products I was putting out. They didn't represent me. I was trying to do exactly what I thought other people would want, and it was failing me terribly. And so I went back. You had made a recommendation to go back to my business plan, and what that, in the beginning stages of my business plan, it says appeal to women. And here I was doing nothing towards women. Mm-hmm. I was, the little bit of things I had on my webpage were just absolute crap. And I don't even know how I got there. So anyways, I went back to the drawing board and took off almost all my men's stuff and reevaluated. And that was the best thing I could have done. The other awesome thing that I did was took a financial leap of faith. And if you know me, I'm a super huge tightwad, and spending money stresses me out. And it's definitely one of my bigger downfalls of expanding my brand. So anyways, about around the beginning of the year, I decided to take a leap of faith and hired a Sunday brunch, and got to know Rachel over there, and it was game changer for me. Game changer on not only my brand and sales and all that, but within myself, and finding the confidence in myself, and how once I found the confidence in myself, I was able to implement that into my brand and no longer question like, oh gosh, if I put this shirt out or put this up on my website, what if they don't like it? Well, I didn't give a shit. I was like, well, I like it. And because I like it, somebody else is going to like it. And I'm going to keep pushing this. And then I decided, instead of making, all these models part of my brand, I'm going to be the avatar of my brand. If you want to grow your business, be transparent and be genuine and be you, and be the avatar of your brand. People want to make a personal connection. And if you are not giving them that, you're going to crash and burn. It just was exactly what was happening. So anyways, I went through a couple months of hiring a marketing company and rebranding, and I laugh now. If you saw my branding from the get-go and you compare it to what I have now, or I pulled out my business cards and I just started laughing like, oh my gosh, like how did you even come up with this, or think that you...
We got to frame those.
Oh my gosh.
And it's amazing, the transition, because like you said, you were putting out what you thought people wanted, not necessarily what you wanted. And when you transitioned, by the way, Sunday Brunch is a marketing agency out of Huntington Beach, California. Rachel Savota has been a guest on this show last year, so you might want to go back through the show notes and listen to her story. But when you started working with her, between the two of you, you pulled out who you really are as a brand.
Yeah.
And it's like night and day different. I mean, your new branding is amazing.
It's awesome. It's totally me. It's beautiful. It's powerful. Liberty or lose when I started it. And of course, it's, definitely lays on the political side. I'm thinking red, white, and blue. Red, white, and blue is political. Liberty or lose, freedom. And it just was not resonating. Like I tried every avenue and it just still wasn't me. So we went totally off the grid and, my colors are
They're like pastels now.
yeah, right. And it's awesome. And then the name still has its power behind it. And it's been epic. So I'm having a blast with it. Other people are wanting to get on board, and there's some brand recognition now that wasn't there before. I do some shows around town. Other than that, everything is basically online. People are like, "Oh my gosh, I've seen your stuff," or "I know that name," or "I know that brand," or "They know my name," or "They've seen my face," or something. So, yeah, being you and being genuine is how you're going to be successful. Quit trying to be somebody else and try to appeal to everybody else.
So I know when you start a business, it's always exciting to start it, but it's also exciting to get paid and to sell some things. What were some of the early ways that you started to sell your products? You mentioned shows and things like that. So what were you doing and how were you generating early income?
So I started out with literally just reaching out to any local shows. I'm like, oh, gun shows, anything. I just reached out and got lucky with my first show, and that was at a gun show, which, was perfect for me and right up my alley. So anyways, my first show, I go there and, not knowing what to expect. It was the first time they had even had any like apparel businesses or anything other than guns at this gun show. And I remember coming home after the weekend, sore feet, exhausted, didn't want to people anymore. I always said, I'm like all peopled out. I had talked to people for 40 hours. I felt like straight, and I was exhausted. I didn't even want, like, kids, don't even talk to me. Jim, don't talk to me. Like, I need a mental break for sure. And I counted up my money at the end of the weekend, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I made a couple $1,000s. Like, people love my stuff. And it was like this huge ego boost, like, what? I'm doing something that people like. This is amazing. And I came in with a whole new confidence, like, I'm doing the right thing. The other thing, too, about liberty or lose, there's a lot of women who I feel like want to have a voice, but they're not going to be vocal about it to others. But they're more than happy to wear a shirt that, blows out their opinion or says how they feel about the Second Amendment or, about we will not co-parent with the government and stuff. So I do feel like we're getting somewhere with women in our country. I kind of switched gears there real fast, but I just hadn't talked about liberty or lose enough and why I started it and why I have such a passion for it. But anyways, that one weekend at that gun show was like, okay, you're doing the right thing and people are excited about your stuff, and now I just need to jump all in. And then I had money in my bank account, and that was super cool. I was like, oh my gosh, I actually have money. I can go pay for some inventory and have inventory on hand. Like, this is great. And
one of the things that you identified about the gun show, which I thought was really clever, you said, there's all these men that are attending the gun show, and they're dragging their wives along with them. It's Sunday, they get out of church, we're going to the gun show, and they drag their wives. And the wives, there's nothing there for them if they're not gun enthusiasts. Of course, we know you are. At the time, you're wearing a 45 on your hip. Now it's a Glock 9.
19.
But, you said women are at these gun shows. I want to give them something to buy. And you saw a lot of success in that.
Yeah, I did. And not that most of us women are into guns, Jim. Come on, let's get this together here, okay?
At least in Montana.
Yeah, for sure. We're toting our guns around and we're proud to do it. But anyways, yeah, I going in politics have, for the longest time been about men or, men in politics having a voice or standing up to things that mattered. For the longest time, who was the ones that were on school boards and going up and standing up at school boards? Men. Men were doing that. You know why we've had a shift in that and why we're having a shift in the way our schools are run and all these, parent terrorists, right, that are going to all these school boards, is because moms have finally stood up and women have finally stood up and they're tired of this crap and they're going to have a voice as well. And I'm so excited by the empowerment of women in politics, I guess, or having a voice in the matters of our children. That's what got me started on all this, was just like sitting there Christmas evening, pissed off at the world because politics are so corrupt, and I owe it to my children to give them a future. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to have a voice in this, and I'm going to give other people a voice through my apparel. And we all need to stop being so silent. Silence is dangerous to our country. Silence is dangerous to our children. And the only reason we are in the state we are in right now is because we, as Republicans, have been the silent majority for too long and have allowed an inch here and an inch here and an inch there. And now here we are, so far past where our country was made to be at and where our founding fathers, created their vision for us, and it's horrifying. Like, where is our country going? Where is our children's future gonna be? Do they even have a future? And with Liberty or Lose, it's given me a platform to be able to, like, on my social media, get out there and touch those people who were silent for too long and empower them to have a voice. And it's not just, this company isn't just about my apparel and, the cool earrings I've been making. Check those out too. But it's about reaching out and finding those people who've been looking for their voice and empowering them to have their voice and to speak up, to save their children and to save their future, and empower others as well. And that's why, from all this, I've gotten into politics, which has been super cute. So
sounds like I need to have you on my other show that's about politics.
Yeah.
But what I do like about your point here is that your business touches part of your value system and what you stand for. And when I coach people, I always talk about figure out what your values are first, build your business and your goals around those values, and you'll have success. So you touched on your earrings, and so you're in the apparel side. All of a sudden, you're downstairs in your office making earrings. I'm like, what's going on here? Like, I'm making earrings now. What made you decide to make earrings? And they're beautiful. And I know you sold out at one of the shows, all your earrings, and everywhere we go, people compliment you. How did you decide to do earrings, and where did you get the talent to do that?
Yeah. So the earrings have been kind of fun. It was kind of like a little therapy thing in a sense. Like, at the end of the day, I needed some little wind down time trying to watch a TV show with a 6 and an 8-year-old, or they were a little bit younger than, it was nearly impossible. So I just kind of took to jewelry at one point. I had ended up buying some feather earrings, bought them for an outrageous price, and was looking at them like, you know what, I can make these things and I can make these better. And so I got after it, went to Hobby Lobby and Michael's and started my jewelry line. And my earrings are awesome. They're long feather earrings, beautiful beads on them. They're flashy. But then not. You can down dress them and you can up dress them a bit. But anyways, it's been so fun to go out and I wear these and I get compliments on them constantly. And it's so neat, like going back to the beginning of all this, where, seeing somebody in your attire, your apparel. I go around and I see people wearing my earrings that I've made, or posting about them on social media. And anyways, it's been so cool to expand this into not just an apparel line, but, a platform to have a voice, and also, now going into accessories. And then on top of that, I've always been obsessed with Myra bags. Probably a few of you women know about Myra bags, but I'm obsessed with this cowhide, theme here on my purses. And so I figured out how to get into being a wholesaler for them. And so here I am now selling bags as well. And it's growing, and people are excited to be part of it and watch it grow and purchase things from me, and it's been great.
So if you're not familiar with Myra bags, and I wasn't, by the way, I did buy her one. I bought you one. I didn't even know that it was a thing. I just thought, you're like, oh, I love that bag. So they're cowhide and leather with some other materials. Oftentimes they're concealed carry. Mm-hmm. They're very country style, right? And popular.
Yeah, lots of cowhide, canvas from old military tents and stuff. They are not American made. Let me just make that clear. But anyways, they're stunning. It's probably the one item I call my clothing that I get the most compliments on all the time. Yeah, most of their stuff, and that was my other big thing is I'm, pro gun. And so quite a bit of the bags are, concealed carry. You can check them out on my website, but they're just stunning. So every day I'm evolving in my brand and growing, and it's been great.
It's pretty exciting. So what's next on the list? Do you have a next?
Well, next is already starting, and unfortunately, it's probably not the prettiest part of my brand and my name and all that, but next is being more involved, and being more involved means going down the political avenue and being more involved in. I've made it a point to have a voice. Now I need to enact my voice and make sure my voice is making change for the better. And so with that being said, I recently just got elected as the director for Flathead County Republican Women's, and people here in Montana know that that is probably one of the most respectable groups in the Republican Party here in Montana. So I'm super proud to be part of it, and now I get to not only have a voice and continue to use my voice, but I get to enact my voice for good and to hopefully change the future for all of us. But mostly make sure that our children and the voiceless have a voice. And so that's the next thing. Hopefully more to come and more fun shirts and everything else. And I will get, more inspiration on that as the days go on, because I always do, but just being involved and not being silent anymore. So I'm excited for what's next.
This is my last question, because I talk to you all day, every day. Where do you get your inspiration from to design your shirts and the quotes? Like the last shirt that I just love that you made, it says "America, make America Cowboy Again," and it's kind of this old school font. It's brown on a white shirt. It's just so cute, and I'm looking at like, who's this person that created this shirt? And I was watching you do a logo last night. I just want people to be inspired that they can do it too. So where do you get your ideas from, and how do you find the mental space to do it?
Yeah, so I get my inspiration from, politics typically, other, women, other people's brands. You can copy things other people are doing, just do it better. If you see somebody being successful at something, do it better, if that's what your passion is and that's where you want to be. But my inspiration typically comes from things that are going on in the news that I'm fired up about. Politics is usually where my inspiration comes from, and especially if it's something that affects my children. And that's, one of my best-selling shirts is "I do not co-parent with the government," and I will continue to stand that ground, and that's a stance we all need to stand on. But that's where my inspiration comes from. Typically, my earring inspiration, that just comes from fun. There's nothing political there. So if you have a problem with politics and you don't want to order any of my shirts, that's fine. But you better get on there and check out my earrings. So.
Your earrings and purses.
Yep.
Well, Sam, we're super proud of you here at the house for the work that you're doing. I know that it's a long haul, and you've been after this over a year now and starting to see some successes. So thank you for your voice, and thank you for being an entrepreneur and being on our show. libertyorlose.com, right? libertyorlose.com.
libertyorlose.com is where it's at. And just if you're thinking about starting a business or starting an apparel business, any business in general, quit making excuses and just start. That's the best advice I have to give to everybody.
Well, I love how you have a business with a voice, and it's on your shirts, but you're also living that. And I think, again, that goes along with having values and living by those values, not just in business, but in life, and teaching our kids some things. So, hey, check out Samantha's page. Follow her on Instagram. It's also Liberty or Lose on Instagram. You can catch her there and reach out to her. Go to her Instagram to find her website and all the great T-shirts she's doing. And if you're here locally in Montana, you probably find her at the next gun show, I would imagine, right?
Yep, Majestic.
Okay, good deal. Well, thank you for tuning into the podcast. The answer is yes. Clearly, Samantha said yes to a wonderful business. Thank you. Thank you for listening to today's show. It is my pleasure and honor to interview all of the guests that have been on the Answer is Yes podcast. If you have enjoyed the show, please go on iTunes and subscribe, give a rating, or simply tell a friend about the show. We also believe in the message of our guests and the positive influence of their stories. As my own mentor and coach, David Meltzer, has taught me, spend some time every day thinking and writing about the things in your own life that you have more than enough of. You will find out how blessed we really are. Please visit my website, livelifedriven.com, for the latest updates about me and what I'm doing. Plus, I post a monthly blog about the many topics on this show. This podcast can also be found there. As I learned early on in life, what you believe is what you will achieve. Thanks, Mark Victor Hansen. And thank you, and have a great week.